attending the Sound of Success webinar with Voxco, Ascribe, and iHeartMedia. I am Antoine Manuel, your host, and I am one of the account managers for Voxco. I handle a lot of the Ascribe accounts here in the States. I'm accompanied by Stacy Shell, our client partner, who is the Senior Manager of Analytics with iHeartMedia. Before Stacy gets into her presentation on how iHeart turns listener voices into local wins, into wins for local radio stations, I'm going to go over a couple housekeeping rules for you. So this webinar is allotted for 45 minutes. We will have some time for question and answer at the end, about 10 minutes for question and answer. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to put them in the Q&A section of the dialogue, and we will address your questions during the Q&A session. This webinar is also going to be recorded, so you will have access to the recording. That should be sent to you sometime tomorrow. Before we turn it over to Stacey, I just want to give you a little bit information about who we are at Voxco and Ascribe. So Voxco is an all-in-one multi-channel survey platform, 50 years of experience in the industry. Last year in September 2024, they acquired Ascribe, so they bought Ascribe out. And together we have brought together two brands, creating one company with one mission, which is allowing researchers the tools and resources to answer anything and making that analysis easier. We have a combined total of 75 years of service. We offer, we work with the top 50 market research company, Fortune 500 brands across the globe, and over 500 clients. And Ascribe is the #1 global brand with over 6 billion responses being analyzed on our platform. And now I am going to turn it over to Stacy so she can walk us through her great presentation. Stacy.
Thanks, Antoine. I'm excited to be here. First of all, I wanted to go over who iHeartRadio is. You might be familiar with us. We have over 870 radio stations across the US. You might start your day with one of our over 1,000 on-air personalities. And something you may not be aware of is that we're the #1 podcast publisher globally with over 148 million monthly podcast downloads. Where you can find that, the next slide will show you.
Stacy, are you there? We can't hear you. Sorry, everyone. I think we may have lost Stacy. Give me a second.
Would like to go over. Next slide, please.
Stacy, we lost you. We didn't hear. We lost audio of you for a minute.
Okay.
Could you recap what you mentioned on this slide here?
Oh, sure. I was going over my favorite attributes of our new app. The presets on the upper left-hand side are where you can store all those things that you use most often. I use that daily. You can put your favorite artist radio in there. You can put your favorite podcast in there, your local radio station, even the radio station that you discovered when you're on vacation in Tampa. You can put all of that there so it's readily available. In addition to the regular radio, our app has the radio dial, trending, and my favorite is the lyrics. So you can sing along in the radio to the radio when you're driving or doing chores, whatever you're using the app while doing. Now, why do we do research at iHeartMedia? Most people think a top 40 station that is heard in Tulsa is probably the same as the top 40 station that they listen to in Philadelphia. And that is simply not true. The listeners are different in each city. So therefore, we study all of our cities, all of our major market cities, to find out what specifically those listeners for that radio station want to hear. For instance, George Strait might be a lot more popular in Texas, whereas some country stations might think he's too outdated and we don't want to hear him anymore. Likewise, Eminem is very popular in Detroit because he's from Detroit. So we're probably going to play few more Eminem songs on our Detroit stations. These are reasons why we do research. Why are open-ended comments a gold mine when doing research? They give us information that we might not otherwise think to ask. So that is why open-ended questions are so important to us. Next. What is our challenge? Of course, being a large company, we have several projects that we have going every single month. If you consider that there's 3 to 8 open-ended questions in every single project that we have going, that is just too time-consuming for a person to manually code to summarize what those respondents are saying. So we needed an easier way to break down the information that our surveys were providing to us. And we use, the next slide, we use Ascribe. We've been using them at iHeartMedia since 2015. That was just doing the manual coding. In 2023, they came out with the AI Coder, which has been a game changer. It really does just put you that much further down the track using AI technology. And I'd like to go over that a little bit more today. So what are the benefits that I like the most about the AI Coder? I can see what people are saying before the survey even comes completely out of the field. You can see real live data as it is fielding. Kind of get an idea of where your presentation to the client is going to end up leading. In addition, we usually get started with the AI coding when our survey is around 50 to 70% fielded. That just helps to accelerate, again, our turnaround to our clients, get them the information as fast as possible so that they can use that information to make their radio station the best that they can. So I want to go over the case study that we are reviewing today. We're not doing a station-specific study. We're doing this question. You mentioned that you listen to broadcast AM/FM radio stations. Why do you sometimes choose broadcast AM/FM radio stations over other apps? We asked this to over 1,000 people, and this was just one of 12 open-ended questions in this study alone. So I want to show you, this is how you how the responses come in. This is basically the raw view of what it looks like when it comes in. So I want to review this with you so we can kind of compare, is what the people saying, what AI Coder represented to us. So let's go through this briefly. The first respondent is talking about, I'm usually in my car, which that is a common response that we do get. The third respondent is talking about, I listen to AM/FM broadcast radio because I want news, traffic, and weather. I also want to hear fresh current songs and new artists that I might not have otherwise been aware of. Yes. And then, oh, I see the mention of emergency on the 5th one down there. Something that people might not be readily aware of. This person obviously is, because they live in a hurricane zone, it looks like. But radio has been the linchpin of communication in many areas where there's been flooding, hurricanes, like they said, in Texas, North Carolina, Kentucky recently. Our radio stations have stayed on the air 24/7, providing information about where people can find local resources, charging stations, clean water, etc. So with this information in mind, let's put the information into Ascribe Coder and see if they break down the same thoughts that we just saw. So once you go into Ascribe Coder, this is your first screen. There's a code book that you can put in. I usually just use the new code book and don't reuse code books over and over again. If there was for instance, if we were doing a country station and I'd done a country station before, I might reuse a code book. For this analysis, I did not. I would leave generative AI segmenting selected because this is a very broad question that I'm asking. Sometimes I will put in the prompt of the actual question we ask. Sometimes I leave it blank. You can kind of play with AI Coder. If you don't like the way it spits out the information one way, you can run it again. You can run it several different ways, and I found that very, very handy. I usually don't have to run it more than once or twice before I get the product that I can then work with. The other thing I'd like to point out here are the nets and the codes at the bottom. Nets are kind of overarching codes. So the codes are the smaller buckets, the nets are kind of the larger buckets or general ideas. We usually will decrease our nets to 2 or 3 and decrease our codes to somewhere, depending on what the question is, around 25 to 30. We do that because we don't want everything under the sun coded for us. We would like more large idea responses in our codes. So that's just one way that you could manipulate the nets and the codes to kind of get a broader or more granular view. Before we go on, Antoine, is there anything else on this screen that you would like to point out?
Sure. I would just like to add that, the AI Coder is language agnostic, so you could, I know you all don't have multi-language studies, but if anyone had a multi-language data file, there's no need to translate those responses. You can upload them in the native language. The processor will be able to analyze them in the native language and give you the results. And you also can choose what language that you want your results distributed in. So by default it's English, but if you wanted to have a code book in French or German or Spanish, you have that ability to do so, but just by clicking that drop down and choosing one of the 200 something languages that are available there. And if you want to translate your responses, you do have the ability to translate them in the Ascribe platform. That's pretty much it.
One other thing I didn't mention on this screen was I did say that we generally use the generative AI segmenting, but occasionally we'll do a study where we're like, what are all your favorite rock artists? Because we want to know, like, what do they consider to be a rock artist? So people would just list artists, in other words. If you're looking for Ascribe Coder to break down a list of things that have been mentioned in a survey, then turning off that generative AI segmenting has been the best way to go about that for us in the past. So now that we've gone over how we put all this in, let's see what it looks like. This is the result that we got when we fed all that information in. You'll see that we got an 89% of our responses coded. And this took maybe 5 to 10 minutes to get this information output. You'll see the gray bars there are those nets that I was speaking about, the overarching themes, and then the codes are within there. So thinking back to the raw data that we went over earlier, you see here that cars are mentioned, ease of use. One thing that is standing out here is there's a here about traffic and also here about weather. I would probably at this stage combine those two. These are all things that you have complete ability to do within AI Coder. You can combine codes. You can separate codes. If there's a code that has a large response number, the number that you see here in blue is a response number, not a percentage. If the number is really large and you think there might be a few ideas within that, you can break it down at this point. One other thing that we'll often do is use our own lingo and change some of the wording that AI has spit out for us here. The last thing I want to point out on the bottom middle, you'll see uncoded segments. So we got 89% of our responses coded, and there's 11% of the responses uncoded. Those are housed in that uncoded segment. If you're so inclined, if 89% of the responses is not enough for you and you want to try to get as close to 100% as you can then manually go into that uncoded segment and look to see if AI maybe missed a few responses that you would like to field. The last thing that we do is we go through every single bucket. We just want to trust but verify that the AI coder has put what belongs in likes listening to music is really what we would deem needs to be in likes listening to music. On the next screen, you'll see an example of what it looks like when you go into the buckets. You'll see there's different colors of blue to delineate what they're using to segment out of the response to put it in a bucket. So in this example, you'll see here new music is in dark blue, and that is the name of the bucket that these responses have been in. So it's just showing you the full response and what part of the response they used to assign it to that bucket. Are there any other things that I did not talk about there, Antoine?
No, you highlighted pretty much everything from being able to drill in and get down to the granular verbatim response.
Yeah. So the last thing we need to do is go through and see what AI summarized for us. So next screen, we'll see this is how we present our data. We use bar charts. There's several different visuals that that are available within Ascribe. But let's just thinking back to our raw data, let's just see how good AI Coder did in encoding this question for us. You'll see listenings in car is by and far the most mentioned. We did see that in the raw data. We saw like listening to or discovering new music, local news and information. So all these things are things that we kind of saw in the raw data, which just gives you a little bit more assurance that you're on the right track and this is accurate information that's being distilled. The next slide is another way that we present our information. We just go ahead and take some of the full responses that Ascribe breaks out for us, and we present just a few nuggets of information, literal verbatims of what the respondents have said, so that our client can see not only is this a bar chart of what people are said, but this is really in their own voice what they're saying. Sometimes it's fun to have something funny in here that people have said. Sometimes it's moving, just telling something that reiterates what the bar chart is saying. In a few moments, I'll let Antoine talk a little bit more about what other visuals they provide for us. Next. So I just wanted to reiterate that this concludes how AI has helped us to accelerate getting our listener information to our client. If we were to do this by hand, this probably would have easily taken 4 to 6 hours. Doing this all through the AI coder, inputting the information, trust but verify, editing any code book names, all that information took approximately 1, not more than 2 hours. So we're saving half or maybe more of our time in using AI coder. Antoine, do you want to talk about the other visuals?
Sure. So like you mentioned, Stacy, there are some visualization tools and some other tools in Ascribe that you all don't currently use, but other users may find helpful. And one is Ask Ascribe. So this is a feature within the platform that allows you to kind of interview or query your data. So analyze your responses and you can begin to ask it questions. So we do have some pre-populated questions within there, but you can also ask your own. So again, this is a question they ask: why are respondents preferring radio over apps or services? And it's giving us those results. It'll give us those results, summarize it. It also put it in a report. You can download it, copy and paste it. If you are using if you upload any closed-in variables to the platform, you can also use those in the report. So let's say if we had, Stacy was using radio stations or different types of music categories, the report would be broken down by each category, each variable in that closed in. And then at the end, we'll have a summary where it shows the similarities and contrasts across those variables. And then the next thing is our visualization piece. So we do have some basic visualizations available in AI Coder. You have tables, block charts, bar charts, word clouds, trending reports. We also have some sentiment analysis reporting features within there if sentiment is important to you. But the thing that I like about our visualizations is it's interactive when you're in the platform. So if I was to click on a code that says prefers listening to radio, it's going to, if I'm displaying the verbatims, it's going to filter and drill down and show me those verbatims, that the actual verbatim responses that make up this code. Like I said, it's completely interactive. I have filter capabilities, but another unique feature with our visualization piece, not only can you download these visuals, so you can download them in Excel, you can download them into a PowerPoint presentation, but you can also create a link where you can share that link with your end customer, and your end customer can take that, utilize that link to access the platform and view the visualizations in real time. So they can come in and click on codes to drill in. They can use the filter features. They can even, create some different visualizations if they want to see the data visualized in a different format, but they won't be able to change any of the results. So just want to kind of share that with you all, that, we, even though iHeart uses their own visualization package, there are visualizations available within the Ascribe platform. So that kind of concludes what the presentation that Stacy had for us today. Before we get into the question and answer series, I just want to let you all know that if you want to have your own personalized in-depth demonstration of Ascribe, you can go to the website ascribe.voxco.com to book a demo. You can also scan the QR code that's on the screen here to talk to one of our reps to schedule a demo that way. And if you have any questions, now's the time you can begin to enter them in the dialogue, the Q&A dialogue, and we'll go through the questions. I'm going to leave this screen up here for a while, so if anyone wants to write down this information or scan the QR code, you'll be able to have it. And then I'm going to just address any questions as they come in. So one of the questions that I see here is, does Ascribe use my data to train the model, and is my data safe within Ascribe? So no, we do not use your data to train the model at all. Your data is safe and secure. Each account on Ascribe, each client account is in a separate SQL database. That data is not being shared. It's not being used to train the model. Your data, the analysis that you run only benefits you and on your account. It's not being used to improve results for other clients or on any other client's account. So your data is safe and secure. Another question here is, what AI engine is being used to power AI Coder? So we are using a combination. We have some proprietary software and algorithms that we use for the analysis, along with AWS Bedrock and Anthropic. We're using those AI engines as well. So that AI Coder is a combination of some, big name AI engines, as well as some of our own proprietary software and algorithms. Are there any other questions? If you have any questions, don't be shy. Feel free to put them in the chat and I'll address them. So I do have another one. This one, they're asking the languages that Ascribe can handle. So as I mentioned before, the two is language agnostic. So you can analyze responses in any language. And you can, if you want to translate those responses, there are several places within the platform that you can translate them. So there's a screen where you can translate them at the study or question level before you go into AI Coder to do your analysis. Or if you decide to, once you get ready to do your analysis on the parameters page, there's an option there for you to translate the responses when the analysis is being taken place. Are there any other questions? So I will leave the chat up for another minute or so to give people an opportunity if they want to ask questions. So any question, feel free to ask. Don't be shy. There is no wrong question to ask here. If you have a question, I'm sure someone else also has that same question. So go ahead and put it in the chat. All right, it looks like that's it for the questions that we have. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. We really appreciate you investing the time to join us today on this webinar. And again, we will be sharing a recording of this webinar, so you should receive that email within about 24 hours. And if you want to do a demo, you can go to ascribe.voxco.com to book a demo, or utilize the QR code on the screen, and one of our sales reps will be more than happy to talk to you and schedule a demo for you. Thank you again for investing your time with us, and you all have a great day. Bye, everyone.